Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and thank you so much for joining us here on the program. We are going to dive straight into our conversation today with a very special guest. His name is Alex Urbina. AlexUrbina.com is the website. He's a shamanic practitioner, energy alchemist, spiritual healer, author, speaker, talk show host. He may be doing a bunch of other stuff that he doesn't have listed here. Alex, thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
I suppose that once you get past 8 or 10 items on a list, I guess they can start calling you a Renaissance man, that kind of thing. But in this context, especially from the metaphysical or spiritual context, I suppose you could still say that. And a lot of people are seriously, they are turning to the less orthodox, if you will, means of caring for. I'm going to put it that way. I could use the word healing, but caring for self. And we are not talking here about a selfish aspect of caring for self, are we? This is actually rather important to our families, our communities, our civilization as it is, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, what's going to happen to us as a species? Would you tend to agree that that's kind of where we're kind of going with this today?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first had my conscious awakening at the age of 23, I got really excited about wanting to make a difference in the world. And I remember that excited version of me, and had a couple of very powerful mentors that I was blessed to have guiding me at that time. And I remember them both kind of just sitting me down and reminding me that in order to make a biggest difference in the world is to start with myself. And they said, if you want to change the world, if you want to change what's happening out there, you have to change what's happening in there. And they just pointed into my chest. And it just clicked for me that it's more powerful to go on this hero's journey of self-discovery and awakening and remembering of thyself. And as I do so, I get to be an example for others. And it's been kind of the crux to my whole existence in this lifetime of remembering how to reconnect to my authentic self and just be authentic and loving and caring and compassionate and all the beautiful higher quality ways of being that inspires myself and others, including my kids, right? As a conscious parent, being rather than saying, showing and revealing through my own journey. I get to teach my kids and the people around me by being willing to go there first and do the work and to heal myself and to awaken myself. And I think that's what really inspires people, is to be willing to look at yourself and say, I get to go first and let me in, put me in, coach.
Yeah, exactly. Especially during this particular month, as we're talking with the playoffs going on. I mean, I'm an avid baseball fan. I love it. A musician by the name of Terry Cashman, many years ago in the 80s, I found out about him through working for a local news talk station, and I was taking care of the local affiliate for the Larry King Show in Phoenix, and I came across Terry Cashman, who produced these songs about baseball, and one of them was Baseball in Ballet. And sometimes these guys who are playing, they're playing a game. That's their job, to play. They make some amazing plays, the physicality of it all, as well as the strategy. That's always fun too. I want to dive into an area that seems counter to what we're trying to do. I was talking just recently with someone who was sharing that literally everything that happens specifically to the human race is part of the evolutionary process. And I want to talk about the role of negativity or negative energies And I'm going to use this example. And I'm going to keep it. I always preface this by saying I'm going to keep it apolitical. Okay, this is not a political statement. This is an observation as a metaphysician on my part. On June 15th, 2015, we had a gentleman who chose to enter the political arena. And from that point forward, even to this day, it was nothing but negativity. Now, you can put all kinds of other classifications on the individual, but what I was hearing, what I was observing was nothing short of just pure negativity. And after about a year of watching this in 2016, 17, I said, this guy cannot maintain this for an extended period of time without it doing harm to his physical body, not just to the people around him, but to him. We as individuals, we tend to do that, don't we? We get locked in this cycle, self-talk. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I don't have the right hair color or hair. And so on and so on and so on. And then we start to wonder why we start having the physical ailments that we have, the dis-ease. Is that observation of mine? Is that a fair assessment of us as individuals, let alone as a species? Because I don't know of any other species on the planet that is going through this kind of stuff.
Yeah, when you use the word disease, it reminds me of a frequency. And a high frequency is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're the God frequency. However, when we were born with this forgetful serum that was injected into us as human beings.
Yeah.
But it was part of the process, a beautiful process of forgetting that we are magnificent and we are powerful and that we are God or an extension of God. And through the forgetting that, we start to slowly pick up other beliefs that were less than, whether it's through conditioning from our parents or religions or teachers, of their ideas of what God is and who we might be. And so as we start to collect those beliefs, the limiting beliefs, our frequency is off course. It's not in sync with who we truly are. And that's where those symptoms start showing up in the body, in the physical body, because your frequency is not at ease. And so the dis-ease of frequency starts to manifest in the body, in certain areas of the body. But all it is a reminder for you to see that you're not in sync with your true frequency.
Mm. Have you ever processed the different dis-eases? And one in particular, I heard this statistic in 1960 in the United States, the obesity rate was less than 1%. Today, 2024, the obesity rate in the United States of America is over, and maybe even higher, over 40%. So 40 out of every 100 individuals basically is carrying around an extra person in some instances or more. And that puts a great strain on every aspect. I remember when I'm only 5'9", and at one point I was 200 pounds. Now that weight, the physical weight did not bother me, although I did have some problems with my knees. The number bothered me psychologically more than anything else. That's not me. I'm not 200. I have stayed now at 180. So I've lost that extra 20 pounds. A very small child, if you will. But a lot of people have put on that weight. Not, I mean, we could go down the laundry list of why, but a lot of people do it out of a need for protection. They feel like if I put on this extra layer, that will protect me from the outside world, from the onslaught and so forth. Uh, how do you work with people who feel that, and whether it is adding weight or some other method they've chosen? How do you work with people who have chosen to protect themselves, using a Star Trek analogy of putting up the shields so that nothing can get in, but at the same time, nothing can really get out other than defensive weaponry, if you will?
Yeah, depend. You know, in my journey of helping people in 30 years, I've gone through different phases of helping people, and I believe that I've gone through each phase almost like developing a specific tool on my tool belt. So whether if I'm coaching somebody in dismantling limiting beliefs or protective mechanisms or coping mechanisms, or if I'm empowering somebody to create new empowering perceptions about themselves or what's possible or reality.
Mm-hmm.
In that journey, I happen to be now at a journey where I'm realizing that there are certain things that are blocking in our energetic body that's getting in the way of the universal energy that is flowing to us and through us. So I'm at a different stage now where I'm realizing what's limiting us.
Mm-hmm. And that's really sort of the bottom line is that we have these limitations. They're self-imposed. They're not put on us by anybody else. Now, and I guess that's sort of the question, is that we're the ones doing it. I myself, I was born legally blind in 1996. Interesting number here. March 6th of 1996. I had a lens implant, and now I am driving. But before that, when I had gotten into this business 45 years ago, I referred to that as a perceived limitation. And that was borne out by a comment by one of my neighbors when I was growing up back in Phoenix. We had this family of nine kids. My parents decided they weren't going to compete. They decided they'll stop at six. But this young man, he and I were the same age. And about a year or two ago, I reconnected with his brother through Facebook, and then we started texting. And he sent me a text from his brother, in essence, complimenting me on the fact that he never saw me as a kid. He never saw me as visually impaired, because I was doing everything that everybody, I was climbing the trees and jumping the fences and running up and down the block and playing kickball and doing all of, and bicycling everywhere like everybody else. And I have to say that really touched me, but it really reinforced what I have always believed most all of my life, that the visual impairment, whether it's legal blindness or otherwise, it's perceived by me. Do you work with people to help them to reframe what they perceive as limitations, or to, I don't know, emotionally, mentally, emotionally, spiritually release just the concept of that limitation so that it opens the door up for the possibilities in their lives, for finding their life's purpose, etc.?
Yeah. So if I'm in a coaching environment and I'm coaching somebody, the power of coaching is all about perspective shifting. So if I'm sitting with somebody, I'm trying to come up with multiple perceptions to help them grab one that inspires them to shift their reality. So, for example, if I have a client that sees their life as unfolding, that's happening to them as a victim perspective, and I can open up a new possibility that what it would it look like if things were happening not necessarily to you but for you, because maybe you set up an agreement before you were born to take on some of these challenges, to learn and grow and discover and figure out who you are, to persevere, to overcome. Then if it's happening for you, it's not necessarily a negative thing. So I think the power and the magic of finding a new perception that empowers you is something that is beyond any comprehension if you're experiencing it in that moment. So for me, I think that, you know, if you can find a perspective and shift it into a powerful one, it transcends you.
Mm. We're talking with Alex Urbina. AlexUrbina.com is the website we want you to check out. We will be linked to that website as well, so that you can find out more about the work that he is doing. And we are going to continue doing so right here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host here with Alex Urbina, and we are talking about the work that he is doing to help us to get balanced through his work as a shamanic practitioner and energy alchemist, a spiritual healer. I understand you also have your own. I want to use the word talk show, what have you. The modern vernacular would be podcast. I mean, I have three elements. There's the broadcast, the podcast, and the video cast, but they're all the same darn thing. How did you get started in that particular area? Because I've been doing this for 45 years. I've come across a lot of folks, and it seems to me like with the with the work that you have taken on to become a shaman, I want to talk about that as well. Um, you know, in my opinion, it is not necessarily an easy thing to take on, because you have to have sort of I want to say the aptitude. And just in the short, brief time we've talked thus far, you definitely have that aptitude, or the capacity, if you will, the talent, the innate ability as far as communication.
I think I developed into it, you know, by having the courage to take on every new challenge and to be open to the possibility that everything's unfolding for me. I created new opportunities for myself.
I'm curious as to how that applies, especially when it comes to becoming a shaman, because I know that is not a short-term endeavor in terms of the people that I've spoken with on this program who are also shamans. It doesn't happen overnight, and I'm curious as to why. Maybe this is the wrong question, because obviously the universe is sort of the one that sort of chooses for us, and we willingly surrender to go down that path. How about you? Was there, as I like to say, a catalytic moment or period where you said, "Yeah, this is the way I need to go"?
Yeah, absolutely. During COVID, when the world kind of shut down and regrouped, I started meditating. And my daughter, she invited me to meditate one day. And even though I was on this spiritual journey, I hadn't really meditated before. And one day in the backyard, I started meditating, and I really started going deep, and I connected to my higher self. And my higher self started to show me these visions of being a shaman in two past lives. And that even though I was spiritually activated at an early age, I died miserably because I didn't do the personal development work. So what happened was they showed me that in this lifetime, I chose to do the personal development work first. And that's why at 23, I was introduced to transformational trainings. And I had a conscious awakening. And that embarked on a hero's journey of personal development and personal growth. And then I became a transformational trainer. inspiring teenagers. And then that led me down a path of just being in service to people.
Hmm.
And then in 2020, I got awakened and realized that my journey is to transition and to choose the shamanic path again. And so that's kind of how that all unfolded for me.
I'm also curious as to your philosophical background prior to becoming a shaman. How were you raised philosophically?
I was born in a middle class family, not really knowing I was anything special until I had that awakening at 23.
Hmm.
A Catholic raised. During that transformational awakening, I read a book called Conversations with God
Hmm.
by Neil Donald Walsh.
Hmm.
And through that book, I remembered who I was and who I am. And that was the awakening of my spiritual journey.
It's sort of a question that I asked one of my guests once, and I said, "Is there going to come a point in time?" And this was sort of tied into Greg Braden's book, "The Healing Power of Belief." But it wasn't Greg I asked the question of, but it was this one guest, and I said, "Is there going to come a time when we're going to finally know who we really are?" And they said, "No." They said, "There's going to come a time when we are going to know who we have always been." And it seems to me that in some instances, we are having a real hard time with that, even that concept, because we're so tied into the individual element. And again, as has been shared on this program before, there's nothing wrong with the individual experience. I mean, well, we are in essence, we're individuals, but by the same token, we're connected, right? I mean, there honestly there is no separation, and even if you try to create a separation, it won't last. And this is kind of going back to what I said at the front end of the program. If you continue to stir up division, yeah, short term, yeah, you're going to have people. But what we're finding today here in 2024 is that it's been going on for so long. People are getting it. I'm exhausted, and I've tried not to allow myself to get drawn into that whole divisive aspect. I mean, my brother and I've shared this before, we're on opposite ends of the political spectrum. And you know what? I don't care. He's still my brother, and I love the guy. And he's done some things for my family, for my parents in particular, that I wish I could have done. I'm proud of the fact that he was able to take my parents for a vacation to, of all places, China, to see the Great Wall and all of that. I'm excited about the fact that at least my brother, I'm related, and I'm not taking credit for what he's done. I'm just saying it's nice to know that I'm connected to him in that regard. Uh, but do you kind of see that maybe there's a certain element in that regard of exhaustion that individuals, regardless of the other stuff that's going on out in the world, that there comes a point where we just kind of eventually we sort of surrender if we don't die first, we sort of surrender and say, I'm tired of doing this. I need something different. I need an infusion. I need a transfusion. I need a transformation. Do you see that with people that you work with, or even groups that you might work with, or that you're speaking to, and you get that sense because you can feel in the room, you can feel the energy. Do you kind of is that an awareness? Is that in your awareness?
It is. It becomes more prevalent now that I'm working with the energy because I can feel people's intentions. The words they use will tell you a lot about someone and where they're at and what they want or what they need. So now that I can feel energies a lot more, I can sense where people are at, what they're yearning for. But I am also, my frequency draws certain people to me that are looking or seeking change or transformation.
Mhm.
So I trust now that anyone and everyone who gets in front of me or connects, makes eye contact, or you go to certain events or you're walking about, I believe there are absolutely no accidents. Everyone we run into, there's a purpose, whether it's to teach or to learn. But when people come to me, especially when people walk into our healing center here, and I want to say 99% of everybody that comes in, there's something specific that they need. From like it's an opportunity for me to support them, or to hold space for them, or to inspire them, or empower them, or remind them, either through a conversation or just by modeling or being. So I think everything is happening for a reason.
We're talking with Alex Urbina. AlexUrbina.com is the website we want you to go to. We're going to be linked to that website, and we certainly hope that you will go there and find out about the work that he's doing. If you're here in California, it makes it a little easier because, am I correct? You're in Santa Clara.
Santa Clarita.
Santa Clarita, beg your pardon. I think there is a Santa Clara. Don't go there. Santa Clarita,
Santa
California.
Clarita.
And we will continue to share with people. And as I said, link to your website as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host here on the program that brings you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Alex, I want to touch upon some of the aspects of the work that you do. Again, we've already mentioned, that you are a shaman. And I would venture, would I be correct in saying that, yes, you are a shamanic healer, but that the learning, if you will, that yeah, I think you and I would both agree, neither of us is going to say, I know it all now. But that the education as a shaman continues because of the new experiences that you find yourself in from time to time.
Absolutely. I'm a lifelong learner. And so I'm a student always. I'll never be the master. I'll never be the ultimate teacher or the know-it-all, nor do I want to be. I always want to be discovering and learning. That's the fun of all of this. That's the reason why I came here to this planet, was to experience and to learn and to remember and to grow and expand and to teach and discuss and to discover. And what I love most about working with my clients is that we're discovering together, we're learning together. And it's better that way. It's better than being the so-called guru that knows it all. There's no fun in that. There's fun in excitement of discovering, because the world's expanding, the universe is expanding. What was relevant yesterday is not relevant today. And I think the people that are staying stuck in that box that they put themselves in, they're limiting their growth. They're limiting their potential because they're not willing to know nothing so that they can learn something. And so I think that I'm always growing. I'm always trying to figure what's next.
What do the outside world events that we are experiencing over the course of our lifetimes, what do they represent in your mind in terms of healing and so forth, and this process of getting the mind, body, spirit balanced? And when I speak of those outside events, primarily of the natural world. Right now, here we are conversing, you and I, in October, and we've got about a month and a half left of what's referred to as hurricane season, and the East Coast is just getting torn apart. What do those kinds of things, or maybe an earthquake out here in California, represent when it comes to us, not only as individuals, but as a species? I've learned that there is a connection, but what's your observation as far as the connection between those events and what's going on inside of us?
I see them as an opportunity. They're purely just an opportunity for me to decide what they mean to me, what I want to learn from anything that's happening outside in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we live in a world of choices and consequences, and as certain choices we make, there are certain consequences, and so the world events are just reflecting all of us collectively making our choice and experiencing a consequence. So I kind of see it as just an opportunity to decide what it means to me. What meaning do I want to give it? I've been practicing for 30 years now to first see things as neutral, and then decide if it's good, bad, right, or wrong, should or shouldn't be doing it.
Mm.
And every time I see something as neutral, um, there's power in that because I'm not an automatic pilot. I'm not, it's not a knee jerk reaction of judging something.
I know that I worked for 15 years for a Christian radio station during the height of televangelism back in the 80s and early 90s. And a lot of the statements that would come out of some of the mouths of some of these people astounded me because they would use those events like the hurricanes, like the earthquakes, like the tornadoes. They would basically say, well, that is God's judgment on whatever part of our society they wish to condemn. And to me, it's like, why would you do that? Okay, so what we now have to do is we must take a look at what's going on, for example, with Florida, and say, what did Florida do wrong that God is punishing them? That just seems so counter to the message, so-called message that they purport to disseminate. That this isn't about judgment. These are things that happen, and how are we going to respond to them? And this is one of the beautiful things, though, about these things. It pulls us together as a society. I mean, when COVID started, you remember how many entrepreneurs popped up to help to make masks and all kinds of the protective coverings and this and that, especially for the first responders. That was remarkable. It was remarkable. And as much as that whole period from 2020 on separated us, didn't divide us, but it separated us from one another because we were told, go home. I even jokingly say, they told you to go home, but they didn't say you had to stay inside the house. You could go out and play in your yard. Um, it gave people an opportunity. And this whole aspect of empowering people to generate self-healing. We're talking here, Alex, about blockages, aren't we? We're talking about those things that we've been holding on to for a long, long time. And would you say through lifetimes, not just this one?
Yeah, there are some things that come from other lifetimes that we carry on into this lifetime. But what I'm noticing is that there are several, let's say about 12 or 15 different things that are at a lower level that are blocking energy flowing through our energy body. And then there's about 6 to 8 more intense, stubborn energies that are transparent that we're not aware of, that not only block energy flowing through our energetic body, but it actually steals energy life force from our energy body.
Mm.
And so what I do is I scan the energetic body to find out what are some of those things that are lowering our life force to the point where it's manifesting in mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical ailments and sickness and disease. And so I'm on a mission now to kind of educate people and let them know what I'm finding and what I'm realizing about the energetic body and how important it is to know what some of these more darker, stubborn energy sources, energy thieves is what I like to call them, that's robbing us from life force.
What is the importance, or what, from your observations, your perspective as a shaman, as a healer, helping people to empower themselves towards self-healing? How important is, and I could say, and what is the connection between us, the human being, even the spiritual being, and the earth?
I believe the earth is a beautiful gift for us if we realize how magnificent she is and the tools that she has. Mother Earth is a beautiful transmuter of energy, and if we remember that or learn that, we can access all the beautiful trees and the grass and nature to help us transmute some of the energies that are stuck in our energy body and transmute that and transform it into positive, high vibrational, loving energy. And that's what nature brings, and that's what Mother Earth brings. But it's an opportunity for us to learn that, to remember that. And I think a little bit of time, more and more of us are understanding that, remembering that, having that experience, and we're sharing that through discussions like this.
I've often said that nature is our greatest teacher. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. Uh, I'm watching nature very closely nowadays, and um, she is my teacher. They are my teachers. The trees, the way they flow, the grass, the way it grows, and just the wind. I mean, everything. It all. If you really just spend some time to connect with nature, even the wildlife, they teach us how to move through the seasons, how to, it's like the indigenous, they used to sit there for hours and just watch and observe the animals and nature, and they were learning from Mother Earth. So I believe it is our greatest teachers. I agree.
I often have said on this program that the universe asks the questions. I'm just along for the ride, and so certain thoughts come to mind. And one in particular, especially with these hurricanes, because they are first and foremost, certainly our hearts and prayers go out to the people who are affected by these events, these weather events. But what came to mind was this in terms of learning from nature. Mother Nature is now asking all of us, not just the people who are being affected, what's really important to you? I was watching one gentleman going sifting through the rubble. Sun was shining, by the way, and the rubble of Hurricane Helena, was it? Anyway, the one before Milton, and he was going through these pictures. And okay, so the pictures are ruined, but you still have them up here and here in your head and in your heart, and you are still alive. And it seems to me that there's an old a saying, maybe from the indigenous, maybe I don't know what the source is, that says that individuals who have passed on never really die as long as we remember them and then share their stories. Because we can learn from them too, even though they're gone. My father has been gone now for about a year and a half. I know he's happier because he's out of the body that he was in. And I get these impressions from him. And it's why at the end of the program, when I go down my litany of gratitude to individuals, he is one of them. And I say, Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Talk to us about the connection between ourselves and our ancestors. Why is that important or isn't important?
Yeah, this actual topic is new. It's actually something that's happening to me right now. I've reconnected back to some of my ancestors who are supporting me on this journey, in this shamanic medicine journey, and transmuting. So for me, I didn't really have any thoughts about it prior to probably the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Other than my recent connection with my dad passing, and believing and feeling his energy around me, and knowing that he's guiding me and protecting me and my family. But when I go a little further back in the ancestry lineage, I have specific ancestors that have reached out to me energetically and spiritually, that have let me know that they are supporting me, and in a big way. So for me, this is a fresh experience. This is literally within the last 3 to 6 months it's been unfolding, and it's pretty profound. And I'm in awe of knowing that they're still, whether in a different dimension or in the same, they say that reality is having is happening at the same time. So wherever they're at, they're supporting me unconditionally. And I think it's an incredible experience to be able to look back and connect and remember and call them forth. We're still in relationships if you choose to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because someone passes doesn't mean that you're not continuing that relationship. It just means that they change forms, but you can still have relationships with anyone moving forward. It's just a matter of you deciding that that's possible and that you want to continue that relationship or not.
2.5 years ago, I got that phone call from my one of my sisters. I thought it was actually going to be the phone call saying Dad has passed, but it was my eldest sister who had just passed. And after I got off the phone, I heard her voice. Hey, Richard, everything's okay. And the beautiful thing for me was that I was lucky enough to have that conversation with her in January prior to her passing in March. I asked her, I says, are you ready? And of course, she was a devout Christian of a non-Catholic sect, if you will. We were all born and raised Catholic, and when she got married, she converted to a different sect, if you will. And she said, to frustrate me, she said yes and no, you know. And she said, no, I'm not ready because I don't want to leave Perry, her husband, with all that she knows he's going to have to deal with. But she says, as far as the transition, as far as dying and so forth, no, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready. I say the same thing. I shared this with you before we started. I said, if today's my day, okay, I've got a lot more I want to do. I'd like to do it. I want to live to be 100. I'm only 64, so I'm still a child, and I want to get there, but I don't have any control over that. So I am ready, and I'm not afraid. And when my father passed, and my sister, and my best friend, and a couple of other friends that I've had, and we all have this happen in our lives. For some of them, I had tears, sometimes sobbing. My best friend of 53 years, he and I went through grade school, high school, and college together. I've thought about him on and off throughout the last year and a half that he's been gone. And every time I do, I can't do anything but laugh because we had so much fun together. And I want to talk to you about that. The aspect of this life and your process of giving folks, empowering individuals to lead a happy, healthy, and purpose-driven life. How do you, shall we say, define happiness? Because I'm going to ask you the same question about health and or healing, but tell me about your perspective on what it means to have happiness in one's life through this process. I'm going to get rid of the blockages. I'm going to heal the dis-ease. Then what? Then what?
For me, happiness is enjoying the present moment and enjoying what my experience is in each new moment. And so I'll give you an example. My grandson, he's 4 years old. And when he comes over and he's playing in the living room there while I'm doing work, whatever, every once in a while, periodically throughout the day, and I try to force myself more and more to stop and look over at him and just experience observing him while he's playing with his Legos or he's singing to himself. And in those moments where I just stop and observe in gratitude to experience this beautiful little boy in front of me, as I'm in that experience of that present moment, there is so much joy and excitement and happiness that's flowing through me in that present moment that I realize that happiness to me, and happiness is a definition for everyone, they have to define for themselves. But for me, it's about being in the present moment and experiencing whatever it is that I choose to experience because I can, and I'm free to be able to decide what things mean to me. So I'm the meaning maker to my own reality.
Yeah.
So as I get to decide what certain things mean to me, that's happiness. What would not be happiness would be to be in a present moment while things are unfolding and I'm not freed up to decide what meaning I want to give something, because I automatically give it a meaning from some of my beliefs or my conditioning. So for me, it's about just being in that present moment, experiencing what I'm experiencing, and being grateful for it as well.
Do you think the founding fathers knew something? Because they talk about how we have these inalienable rights, and among them are life, liberty, and happiness. Oh, I'm sorry, the pursuit of happiness. Do you think that they knew something about happiness, that they weren't going to give it to us as an inalienable right? It was going to be the pursuit of happiness.
Well, I think just by using those words, they knew that they couldn't give it to us. That's why they
Ah,
used the word in pursuit of, because they know that each person has to go and pursue what makes them happy.
but they
And
knew
that they
there was
have to,
some importance to happiness, right?
well, yeah, I mean, at a certain point, I'm sure they realized at whatever age they were that we give our own meaning to our existence.
Yeah.
And they all have been on journeys where certain things made them happy, and they wanted that for other people. They wanted that for the people that were coming behind them. And so they wrote that down as a way to inspire people to keep chasing after your happiness.
Hmm. Maybe that's also tied to what, I don't know when this phrase came into vogue. And I don't think it was back in the 1700s during the founding, but the whole concept of the American dream. I'll have to research that and see when that came along. But maybe that's tied to, in some fashion, the concept of pursuing happiness. I want to ask you about health, but healing in particular. My wife and I are Reiki masters. My father's brother was diagnosed with cancer. We had just finished our training. We wanted to give him an absentee healing. My mother gave us one of his photographs. So we went home, we gave an absentee healing. After the funeral for my uncle, my mother told us that what had happened shortly after we had sent the absentee healing was that he got really angry, threw his medications across the room, jumped in his wheelchair, wheeled across the compound or the ranch where he and his family lived, went into the house where his son and family lived, had closure or what have you, a wonderful thing, and then he passed away. And I learned as a Reiki master, I don't control the energy. I don't control what it does. We send it and give it. So that raises the question for me about, well, what is healing? What does that mean? Because um, it seems to me that we have, I don't know, just my observation, a distorted view of what healing really is. Because I think that he chose to use that energy to do what he did and then leave. Say, I'm out of this body. I'm done with this body. And now, like my father, as well, who 5 days before his passing was diagnosed with early onset dementia and Parkinson's disease. And I know for a fact that he would have hated to have continued on in that body. And he was 91. How do you define healing in this context? What does that really mean?
For me, healing comes from within the individual. So I've always made this statement, and I'll say it again. I don't believe that any healer is actually doing the healing, including myself. What I'm doing is I'm creating a healing frequency, and I'm bringing that healing frequency to the person, and I'm inviting that person to either align themselves with that healing frequency to match it, or to inspire them to want to raise their frequency to that level or beyond. But I'm a facilitator,
Mm-hmm.
and I facilitate healing that's happening over there in the individual by transmuting energy. But as you said earlier, we're not really in control of what's the outcome or what happens.
Mm-hmm.
We're only in control of what we intend to cause, and we give it our best. But the healing is happening within the individual. The individual has to decide that they want to be healed. I'm starting to learn that some people don't want to really be healed. Some people have a belief that they can't be healed. And as much as they want to believe, there's a 50-50 or a 60-40 belief that's not really helping them heal themselves. So it doesn't matter how much I want to heal somebody or be a part of that healing process or facilitating. I can only go as far as the person who believes that they can heal, that the body can heal itself in the right conditioning, and that they deserve to heal or they're worthy enough to heal. So there's a lot of things that get in the way of individual self-healing that that the individual has to overcome, and they have to flip a switch inside of them to decide that their life is worth staying around for. And so there's so many different components that we can explore that I think happens with the person who is sick or who is battling some of those challenges. There's some things that they have to dig down deep, find those switches and start flipping them. And if they don't, or if they don't have the energy or they don't have the desire, or their life isn't as exciting enough to fight for, then what they slowly do is they just slowly start to give up a little bit of time, and then they check out.
Reminds me of a conversation my mother told me about that she had with my dad before his passing, after my eldest sister, his eldest daughter's passing. And he was just exhausted. He said, I'm tired. I don't want to be here anymore. And my mother told me about his health conditions. He's healthy as a horse. He had the blood pressure of a 20-year-old. So she responds to his comment as compassionately as she could, I'm sure. Okay, so what are you going to die of? Because he didn't have any terminal other than life, he didn't have any conditions that were there. I want to ask you before we wrap things up here about two more things. Number one is the importance of us as the one seeking the healing. And I guess you could say on one level, as the healer and you being the facilitator, how important is intuition, listening to the still small voice? Some will even tie into it also, listening to the body in this process.
I think it's critical for us to listen to our intuition, because I believe that the mind that's communicating to us, if the ego's rampant, then it's communicating to us with fear-based messages or conversations. But I believe that our intuition is a direct contact to our higher self, who's communicating specific answers and wisdom. So just to me, it matters who are you listening to? Which frequency are you on? Which radio station are you dialed into? Because if you're listening to your spirit, right, or your soul or your higher self, it's reminding you of who you are, why you're here, what you're capable of. It's reminding that you can do it. You are it. And it's empowering you and it's inspiring you to keep going, to keep pushing through. There's a breakthrough right around the corner. But if your radio station is on the egoic mind, and the mind's like, yeah, you don't really have anything going on, and it's a fear-based conversation. It's a broadcast that is really not supporting your evolution and continued growth and continued joy and happiness and purpose. So it depends on which radio station you're dialed into and what subscription you have. That's why I believe that having a conscious awakening and continuing to evolve and grow and develop that intuition, so that you are listening to a broadcast of your higher self, who is always there to support you and love you and nurture you and empower you to live a beautiful existence in this lifetime.
We are talking, I've got one other element I'm going to ask you about, but I want to remind our listeners, we're talking with Alex Urbina out of Santa Clarita, California. And you actually have a a facility, if I'm not mistaken, that I don't believe is it also in Santa Clarita, or is that located nearby? And the you have a healing studio in Valencia.
Yeah, Valencia is a smaller city inside of the Santa Clarita Valley,
Ah, okay.
just north of Los Angeles, near Magic Mountain. We're actually a couple miles away from Magic Mountain, if anyone's aware of that. But
Oh
we
yeah.
have a holistic healing center here called the Healing Studio. We uh, we have two beautiful harmonic eggs. I don't know if you've heard of the harmonic egg. They're huge wooden chambers created out of sacred geometry, and they have both light and sound frequencies that de-stress the body, resets the nervous system, and clears out your chakras, realigns your chakras. They're more for maintenance for people that want to do self-healing, use their intention to clear all of that stuck, stagnant energy. So yeah, we have a variety of different tools and modalities to help support people on that healing journey.
Well, we would ask people to go to your website, alexurbina.com, which we will be linked to as well, so that folks can find out more about what you are doing, the work that you are doing to help all of us individually and collectively to change our lives, which is what we're here all about, and giving people choices and knowledge of those choices to help make their dreams come true. This program provides another choice for you to consider, folks. We again, I've said it before, we put out this huge smorgasbord table of all of the ideas and concepts and methods and modalities that all of our guests have put out over the last 17 plus years. And we just ask you to come and take what resonates with you. You mentioned earlier, Alex, about vibration, frequency. And that seems to be a really big subject as well, in terms of those kinds of things. I want to touch upon one final thing before we wrap up here, and that is you did refer to a connection with ancestors who are on the other side. Do you go through a process of um, calling them in at the front end of, I don't know if we want to call it a session with a client who, in terms of saying, "Hey, I can use, I can use all the help I can get. I'm here. Send the energy through. I'm an open conduit, et cetera, et cetera," so that this person who's there with you, and this is what's interesting, this person who is with you, now you're individuals, and yet we're also all connected, is seeking a balancing. So tell us a little bit about that process.
So my journey as a, we'll do the air quote, right, healer is I'm not the type of healer that brings energy into people, even though I can. I'm also a Reiki master.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to a stage where I'm transmuting energy. So no matter where you are in the world, I can connect to your energy field and transmute that energy with my intention, with my higher self, and a partnership that I have with my a certain ascended masters and a specific spirit team. So I can transmute energy. If you know anything about transmuting energy or transforming it, you transform it from one form to another. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever energy, dark, demonic, or evil, or ill intent, or stubborn, stagnant energies that are in the energy body, I can transform those. And when I transform them into love, the body suddenly starts to do its own healing. The body's healing itself. It's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily coming from me. When you transmute the blockages and the heavy drain from the life force, all of a sudden the life force starts to raise up. The vibrational frequency starts to raise up. The body's vibrant. It's healthy, and it heals itself organically. It's intelligent, so it does its own healing. So that's kind of the picture that I wanted to paint to you as
Mm-hmm.
far as how my process works.
Yeah, I think of, for example, some of the miracles, especially the healing miracles that Jesus performed, as they are written about in the New Testament. And it's like, well, the individual doesn't have to receive that energy if they don't want to get healed. And a case in point, working for the Christian station, we would have these prayer programs, an hour, what have you, where, hey, call in and we'll pray for you for your healing, da 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 da. And I worked there for 15 years. And I kept hearing this, a lot of the same people calling in year after year after year. And what dawned on me was that they may have been calling for their healing, their physical healing, but what I tapped into was that it wasn't so much that they were wanting to be healed as much as they wanted that connection. That's what they were really looking for. Do you also find that along this journey of yours that the person, yes, they're there, they've got a particular issue they're dealing with, but really it's more they don't get out much. I don't know, maybe they're elderly and they're this kind of thing, and they don't have the same kind of contact with the world that they used to have when maybe they were working before they retired, that kind of thing, or whatever the condition might be. You think that's a maybe an overriding issue for all of us that we just need that connection, that contact.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that there are some people that don't have relationships that um, set them up to be able to have that type of nurturing connection, that compassion, that understanding, somebody to hold that space for them or to listen to them, to be heard, to be validated, to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I do believe that some people seek that. But I also believe there are certain people that don't necessarily want to heal because they have created an identity around their suffering and their sickness or their disease. So they just want to complain or to be validated that
Yeah.
that this is what they got. And they get a lot of attention from having a specific disease or a sickness. And so they've learned unconsciously to bitch, moan, and complain about what they're going through, that they get fueled, they get sympathy, pity, compassion from other people, but they don't necessarily want to heal that. They don't
Yeah.
really want to heal that because that temporary feeling that they're getting from all the people that are feeling sorry for them or playing that role for them, that's enough for them. And so they just keep going around. And after they've gotten enough from a certain person, then they go try to go and find more people to tell their story to and
Mm.
keep filling up that bucket. The problem is that bucket has a hole in it. And so the more you keep filling it with sympathy and pity, they just got to keep filling it up until they can't fill it up anymore.
There's two things. There's a certain element of addiction, but they are also this term has been used many times. They are also what's considered to be an energy vampire, because the people that they get this sympathy from, after a while, they start to feel a little run down, and it's like I got to get away from you because I was doing great before I came to you, and now, we have to be discerning in that regard as to who we associate with, and I am just thrilled that we have connected and are associating with you through this program, and I just find what the work that you're doing, I'm very happy that you're there doing it for the folks, not only in Santa Clarita. I take it you also use the internet and so forth to do remote work as well.
Yeah, now at the stage that I'm at with transmuting energy, it's the main focus. Because I can transmute energy from anybody in the world. Um, that's what I'm doing now. And so it happens to be just the next stage, the 257th stage of my journey in the last 30 years. I go through stages because I'm all, like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, I'm a constant student. I'm
Yeah.
always learning and I'm actually expanding with the universe. I'm expanding with the earth. I'm expanding and I'm growing. So I'm not the same person I was yesterday or a month ago or a year ago. Because my mission is to help people end the suffering that they have been going through when they're ready to end it. If you're not ready to end it, you're not listening to shows like this. You're not on this frequency. But
Right.
people that have finally decided, like, man, God, give me a break. I need something. They're listening to this frequency. And I always tell people, if you're listening to me and your knees start shaking, it's because I came here on this show to talk to you. It might be one person, 5 people, 10 people, but when you're listening to somebody, and I'm sure you have your listeners that they resonate with you. And every time you talk, you get them riled up because it's your frequency that they're resonating with, and you're inspiring them. And I want to end with just thanking you for the work that you do and the dedication that you've made for 17 years to hold this space for people to come in and share. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm sure there's a lot of sacrifices you've made, and I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge you for all that you've done and that you continue to do. So thank you so much for having me on this show.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for those kind words. And I would also say that you and I probably are on the same wavelength when it comes to our awareness of all that you've just said, and that there is a great responsibility that goes along with that. That, you know, one of the tenets of my philosophy is that words have power. So I want to I'm going to put it this way. I want to be careful about the words that I use. I was sharing with my elder sister about certain aspects of my father, and I used a particular word to describe my observations of my father, and she did not like it, and she let me know. Now, she wasn't, you know, I'm never going to call you again or anything, but it was, hey, I didn't like, I disagree with you in that word. And I said, okay, I won't use that word, in this context in the future. But she was honest with me, and I'm glad that she did that. She called me on that. So it's like there is a responsibility that we take. I can't control my guests and what they have to share, but I can in terms of the words that I use, because as I said before, words do have power. I'm Richard Dugan. This is Tell Me Your Story. We're talking with Alex Urbina. AlexUrbina.com is the website we'll be linked to. He is a shamanic practitioner, energy alchemist, as well as a spiritual healer, author, speaker, talk show host, and all those wonderful things that we've been talking about throughout this program. And you're listening to Tell Me Your Story. Alex Urbina, I want to thank you again for joining us here on the program. I do have 3 final questions that I ask all of my guests. And the first of those 3 questions is, who is Alex Urbina?
I'm you. I'm us. And I am.
What gets you up in the morning?
The fact that I chose to come back from my sleep time. The fact that I'm excited about what I do. I have a purpose. I haven't completed that purpose, and it drives me every day, all day long. I actually hate going to sleep at night because I want to keep going. There's so much work to do. There's so much more to experience. There's so much more joy to take on. And I don't think I ever want to cross back over. But I'm sure at some point I will. But until I feel that or experience that, I'm going to be excited to get up every single morning and have more experiences.
And finally, what was your best day?
Today. Because I got up this morning and I got the opportunity to be here and experience the beautiful family that I have and this beautiful mission that I'm on, and the opportunity to continue to be in service and be fulfilled in this journey. I have to keep reminding myself that I chose to be here, that I chose to take on this body and this life. And I have to keep reminding myself that I chose this. So I get to roll with the good, the bad, the ugly, and embrace it all and love it all.
Well, once again, Alex, thank you so much for being a part of the work that we're doing here on Tell Me Your Story. And we look forward to having you back again to continue this conversation. We also thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, as we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next podcast, videocast, love to Lao. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.